Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, Thursday morning, October 21st. I'm happy to be here. This is one child abuse survivor to another. We're on for 30 minutes this morning, and the chat room is open. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast here on Blog Talk Radio. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I've got like 12,000, almost 12,200 shows listened to, and so somebody's listening. I really appreciate it. I want to continue talking about anger management from the website www.angerresources.com, ANGEROURCES, angerresources.com. Dave Decker and Michael Obsatz have put together this website, and they are both, I believe that they are therapists, or working in the field of mental health, and they both sort of specialize in the whole the whole issues that surround anger and anger management, right? So it's a great website. I hope everybody will go check it out. This can help anybody. You don't have to have been a victim or survivor of child abuse to benefit from this. This is so many times people really let their anger get out of control, and just for reasons like the lines are too long in the store, road rage, trying to get to work on time, and people are cutting you off and doing crazy things, and pretty soon before I used to do that because I used to, have to be commuting back and forth to work, and, it can get a little bit rough out there. So, and just any little number of things, you know what I mean? People just don't know how to handle their anger properly. Anger is a natural response, and it's a normal response, and anger is okay. Getting, out of control and violent and abusive towards somebody because of your anger is not okay. And that's why I'm studying this and looking into this big time, because, I didn't know how to handle my anger properly. Didn't even know that, for a while that my anger was an issue. Just thought it was a normal way to be because that's how I grew up. So, after thinking about it, I thought, hey, I don't like to be treated like that. Maybe I need to straighten up. So then I started stuffing my anger, which was no good because then I was just becoming more and more irate and full of rage from not dealing with the stuff, right? So just stuffing it, not dealing with it, and that was unhealthy. So there's better ways. There has to be better ways to deal with anger. I know there is, and I'm kind of a big one to say, well, people just should take an anger management course. If I see somebody who's out of control, I'm thinking in my head, those people need an anger management course, and then but we have to check our own behavior first. It's like, well, how am I behaving? How am I handling my anger properly? That's the whole issue, right? So we can all benefit from this stuff. So I hope that you will go and check this website out. So I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I have no certificates in those areas. I'm a private citizen paying to do my own blog talk shows, just because I sort of thought, well, I'll be one more voice out there who's, bringing up the issues surrounding child abuse, surrounding adult survivor issues, and I just wanted to join everybody else out there who's actually speaking out and talking about the issues that surround child abuse. And so, you have to listen, you have to listen at your own discretion because the topics of abuse are very sensitive, and a lot of people, if you haven't heard a whole lot about it, it can be very, very distressing and triggering for people who have survived child abuse as well. So listen at your own discretion. And young people under the age of 18, you have to, I really ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. Have an adult listen to the show with you just to make sure it's something that you should be listening to because your safety is like number one. And so you need to be aware of that and be careful what you're doing online. Be sure that what you're listening to is something that you should be listening to, and be extremely careful in the chat rooms and things like that, right? There's all kinds of sexual predators out there, child sexual predators and pedophiles who try to get a hold of kids in chat rooms. It's just what they do. There's literally hundreds of thousands of them online at any given time. So the FBI has a great website. I love this website, FBI.gov. There's a link to some information that they've got on their website about internet safety for parents and for young people, how to keep yourself safe, right? So get that information, just read up on it and find out how to keep yourself safe while you're online. It's very important. So we'll get right into this morning. I wanted to look at another article called Communication and Disrespectful Anger, a Poor Match at Best. And this is from Dave Decker. And it's kind of a lengthy article. I don't know if we'll have time to finish it today, but maybe we can finish it up tomorrow. We'll look at it today and tomorrow. But it's quite interesting to see what he's got to say. He has some great information, Dave Decker, and you can go on their website, angerresources.com, and find out more about them, Dave Decker and Michael Lobsatz. We haven't really gotten into Michael Lobsatz's articles yet, but we will. I want to actually continue looking at this because this is something that affected my life all the way through my life as a survivor of child abuse, growing up in a violent home, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of abuse, and every kind of dysfunctional kind of, insane behavior was going on. And so anger has really affected my life all the way through, and I just wanted to really take a good look at it because I know so many people probably have some experience some of this stuff, even if not all of it. Some of it would probably, they could probably identify with. So unfortunately, so many of us can't. So I think it's important that we know how to handle our anger and know how to manage our anger, right? Because anger is normal. It's natural, but not when it gets out of control and distorted and like Dave Decker talks a lot about the perversions and distortions of anger, right? So, which is abuse. It's becoming violent. It's becoming vindictive. It's becoming explosive. All these different things they're not anger. They're perversions and distortions of anger, according to Dave Decker. So that's why I want to continue looking at this, right, to sort of show myself and others, whoever's listening to the shows, that, anger is a normal response, but we do need to know how to control it and how to not hurt other people. So that's what I've got to learn how to do. It says angry and hostile people are poor communicators. And it says their efforts to communicate often hurt themselves and those around them. They frequently attribute their anger and abuse problems to the fact that they and the others important to them just don't communicate very well. In fact, the reasons for their anger are not this simple, but their poor communication style can be both a contributor to and a result of their angry and abusive attitudes and behaviors. So it's angry and hostile people are poor communicators, and that's the truth, because they're not choosing how they're going to communicate something to, someone in their life, right? And just because if they were, then they'd be able to communicate properly, right? And my parents were like prime example. I'm really bringing up my parents in this stuff because they had huge problems with their anger issues. They had these perversions and distorted anger coping skills, right? So I learned this as a child, so I have to go back and undo all that, right, and try to figure out what is the right thing to do, how to handle this stuff, right? It says the most common type of poor communication comes in the form of being explosive and lashing out at others. It says angry people tend to say whatever comes to mind, often arguing that being brutally honest is the best way to live. They are not interested in being polite or kind and do not seem to care how their communication affects anyone else. The only people who really count in their minds are themselves, and then they react with surprise, indignation, and emotional pain when others distance and pull away from them, which is often the end result of this type of behavior. However, he says, although this is the most common problem identified with angry people's communication, it is not the only one. So it says, angry people may also be hurtful in what they say to others by responding in sarcastic or indirect ways. They are able to communicate their angry feelings, but others have great difficulty holding them accountable for what they are saying or engaging them in a constructive dialogue. So there's so much to this, Like I know this is like me all over, I totally behave like this and even still do today, because I still have issues with, my anger, right? So and this can happen to people, right? I mean, what I think, I'm being totally brutally honest, and I'm like, okay, honesty is the best manner. It's the best way. We have to be honest with each other. Well, we do, but we don't have to hurt people. And so my thing is I have to learn, okay, honesty to me is everything. And so, okay, we got to be honest. That's fine. But, then I have to, my niece actually, kind of showed me the other day that, I quite often do say things, especially say things that are very hurtful, even though I'm being honest. I don't think about the other people's feelings involved, and so it tends to hurt people, right? And that's true. And I mean, sometimes, for me, when I'm trying to get a point across, it almost feels necessary to do that, not on purpose to hurt people, but to say this is the truth, whether you like it or not, And, I think it's just mainly because of my adult survivor issues and what I'm doing. My family's coming against me as far as, well, they're not coming against me. They're totally ignoring me is what they're doing because of what I'm doing, going public with my story. So my siblings and whatnot are not, they're just not supportive. They're not there. My sister is there, but only if I don't bring up anything controversial. You know what I mean? As soon as I start talking about, stuff like this or the Bible, because I'm really into the Bible and love reading the Bible and whatnot. I have a show here on the weekend called Mount Bethel, Christian Bible Study, like Getting Real with God, because I really love to read the Bible. Well, as soon as I bring up anything like that, she just doesn't want to hear it. So she's really not, she loves me, I'm sure of it, my sister, but she's not really involved in my life. It's all about her and her facials and her, let's get her hair done and let's do this and let's, she doesn't want, see, I'm facing all this stuff head on, I'm in a different place than her, we're not on the same level at all. We never have been. And so we find it awfully hard to talk to each other because, what I'm interested in, she's not interested in. What she's interested in, I'm not interested in. I'm interested in looking at the truth of the past and what happened in our family because I'm trying to heal from it. And she's not interested, She's like completely in denial and living in a closet so that nobody will know what happened to her. It's like, well, we're on two different places. So everything I say is going to hurt her feelings, definitely. But I just feel like, well, I'm not going to shut up just because somebody doesn't want to hear the truth, But I do need to be careful how I say things, and that's the truth. But, people, she does too. See, so I'm using her as an example because, we sort of, I'm using my family as an example because we are like the number one top dysfunctional family on the planet. And so, it's just that we're just an average dysfunctional family. There's so many of them out there. I've met so many people who are so dysfunctional, even in their own lives as, friends and other people that I've known in my lifetime. So we're not like the only ones. This is very common, actually, and it's really sad because families are broken apart by this kind of stuff. People wanting to be honest, but yet hurting everyone around them because of their honesty, and I have to be careful because I'm a number one culprit of that. And so, we got to be honest, and we do have to, this was the whole issue of me coming out with my story. You know what I mean? I'm being brutally honest about what happened in our family, and yet I didn't want to have to go to my siblings and ask permission. Oh, can I go get help? I didn't want to have to go to my abusive, dysfunctional family and say, I'd like to go public with our story. Is that okay? Because I know exactly what they would say. You know what I mean? They would have been like, well, you're just a jerk, right? Because they don't want anybody to know the truth, right? And I do. And basically that's what happens with survivors of child abuse quite often. The families are so dysfunctional and still so dysfunctional that even when the survivors, some of the survivors within the home will try to get help, the rest of them won't support them. And, we all know this, right? This is a fact. This is a fact of life. But I'm talking on any normal given day, we might be trying to point something out that doesn't have anything to do with the survivor issues, and we're just being honest, like maybe we might say to somebody, maybe somebody's doing something that we just know is going to get them into trouble. And it's the way we say it, I guess. It's the way we handle it. It's not the fact that we're being honest that's the problem. It's how we say it. So we can sometimes not think about being polite or kind to that person, and we just blurt it out there and end up hurting their feelings, and then they pull away and distance themselves. So, I can totally see this. But my point was that, sometimes we have to be brutally honest because otherwise abusers will try to shut you down. And I know this firsthand. It's like, no, I'm being honest, and I just need to remember that while I'm on my healing journey and going forward and working on my healing journey and going public with my story, that I need to keep them, keep it polite. And that's what I've been trying to do the whole time. I haven't really tried to refrain from calling people names and, getting irate on, as far as my healing journey goes. I'm really trying to be at peace with this. And so, but we still have to be concerned about the other person when we are going to be brutally honest, right? So that's what, it's a good lesson for me too, right? Totally. It says, however, angry people can be hurtful in what they say to others by responding sarcastically and in indirect ways. Well, my family is like the top number one sarcastic group, you know what I mean? We have learned how to hurt each other with words, you know what I mean? Because none of us want to really become physically violent. We're all tired of that stuff. And my sister and I used to sort of physically duke it out until she moved out of the house. But mainly when I was really small, when I was really young, that's when we used to mainly get into our physical little, fights and stuff. And otherwise, we're just very much verbally and psychologically abusive towards each other, right? If we don't like something the other one's doing, it tends to turn out pretty bad, right? So we learned this, how to do this at home, right? Because our parents were like that. So sarcasm and in these indirect ways, and that's what my sister was doing to me earlier this summer, and that's why I am actually not talking to her right now, is because in an indirect way she completely hurt my feelings and then made it out to be my fault, and the group of people that were in the room backed her up and said, oh, well, your sister, she's just, she's older and, she's blah, blah, blah. So, she was the one that was hurting me actually by saying what she said, and everybody backed her up. And I'm like, I don't have to take that, I don't have to put up with that. So then I said something back and everybody shut me down. And I was like, well, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Of course, it was my house. I should have just tossed them all out on their cookies. But the thing is that, it doesn't have to get like that, whatever. People are ignorant and whatever. They only hear what they want to hear. They didn't hear her remark to me. They heard my rebuttal, right? And so if they were sitting in the same room, I don't know why they didn't hear her remark to me and think that, hey, that was a real indirect uppercut. She basically threw a punch at me indirectly with words, right? And they didn't think anything was wrong with that, but I did. So I rebutted, said something back to her, and then everybody jumped all over me for my behavior. And so, see, my sister gets away with this stuff because she's very indirectly and very abusive indirectly. That's what I mean. She's not. She's kind of one of the more aggressive, passive aggressive types. She won't get in your face, and she wants everybody to think she's perfect. See, so she won't allow herself to lash out like that. What she'll do is she'll get you indirectly. And my mom was famous for that. My dad was famous for that. They all are famous for that. And so my family is probably. I really wish that we would have all had help. Counseling, therapy. It should have been mandatory. Actually, it was. My parents were busted for abusing my brother, and they had to go to court, and they had charges against them for child abuse. They were told to get court-ordered counseling. They didn't do it. They went twice. Big deal, whoop-de-doo. The family was actually supposed to get counseling, too. All the kids were supposed to get counseling, and no, we didn't. So I grew up in hell with these people, right? And so you can read my story, actually, if you haven't seen it. There's a link down at the bottom of the show page. My book is A Life of Death, The Redemption. And there used to be a blog. It was a public-facing blog and called Not So Fond Memories Growing Up in an Abusive Home. And Donna Shear and Sandra Potter of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, said that really should be a book. You should get that in book form and get it out there. So all the proceeds are going to Dreamcatchers for Abused Children to help stop child abuse, right? So, but that's my memoirs, and it's just sort of a little, kind of chronological. It's not complete memoirs. That would have been way too long, but it's just a good look at the dysfunction and abuse within our home and what was actually happening. And these people that I grew up with, they had no clue, and so here I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm trying to make sense of my world and trying to heal, and I got all these dysfunctional family members around me still. Well, there's not that many left. There's only like 3, there's only 4 of us left, but out of 9. So, it's like they're not on the same, they're just living in this little pretend world, this little world of denial and just so they can get through their day without having to think about it, right? Nobody wants to think about this stuff except for me because I want to heal from it, right? And so, hey, we're not on the same plane. I mean, we're not on the same level at all. So it's very hard for me to have much to do with them, too much, because I don't particularly like spending time with them. They don't like spending time with me because of my... I guess because of the way that I am. I'm brutally honest, you know what I mean? And when people are in my face abusing me and I call them on it, I'm always the one that looks bad because throughout history, my family history, when I was growing up, I was the one who was the bad kid, the black sheep of the family, along with my brothers, right? So when a family, assigns you a role of a black sheep, it's hard to get out from underneath of that. And it's hard for, to get them to change their mind about the way they treat you. It's always the way you're treating them, right? It's like, oh, well, look at you. You're always like this. You've always been doing this, and you're just this and that, right? Always accusing me of being a certain way. And when I try to point out their behavior, they're like, oh, no, we're perfect. And that's the whole issue. They won't take a look at their own behavior. They're just looking at mine. So I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Look at my behavior. Whatever. Buzz off. I got work to do. I'm extremely busy. You know what I mean? So I don't care if my family wants to hang around or not. The more they don't, the better off I really am, because I'm learning how to heal. See, I'm allowing myself to heal first of all, and which is a big thing for survivors. We have to actually allow ourselves to have a good life. We have to say, you know what? I did not deserve that abuse. I really didn't. And so how am I going to change the way that I feel about myself? How am I going to change the way I feel about this life? How am I going to change the way that I feel about the abuse that I suffered, so that I can heal, and so I can be a productive person and have a decent life, And so, hey, my other family members, they want to pretend it all didn't happen. Well, good for them. But for me, I can't do that. You know what I mean? Because it affected me too greatly, and I actually was the one that said that it wouldn't affect me, because I seemed to be the most normal out of all of them growing up. I guess I was just putting on a really good show. Well, I was high most of the time. But the thing is that I was the one that said, well, I won't be affected by this because I'm okay. I used to have to tell myself that in order just to remain sane. I would have to say, I'm okay. Even though I really wasn't, right? I had to say it just to get through the day. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. Because when you grow up abused, right, you have to really convince yourself you're okay, because just to get through the day, if there's nobody there to help you, you're kind of trying to help yourself stay sane, right? And so, I kept thinking, yeah, I'll be okay, right? And didn't realize, that it affected me so badly. But, it took its toll all the way through my 20s, 30s, and into my 40s, right? And that's just the whole issue. We did not deserve that. So, hey, I draw a line between me and my dysfunctional family. If they choose to be part of my life, well, then they're going to have to stop being abusive towards me and stop acting like I'm the only one who has problems here. You know what I mean? It's like, no, we should have actually had to go to counseling. And I wish the courts would have removed us from our home, to be honest with you. And I really think that they should have taken us all out, and made my parents get help for psychological, mental help, and they really needed counseling extremely bad. They needed therapists and counseling and some meds probably. They really needed medication as well. And we could have got help, we could have got counseling, and I think that our lives would have been completely different. Completely different. So that's the whole issue. Now I'm starting at the age, in my 40s to try to pick up the pieces, right? But thank God I'm starting, and that's the thing. It's never too late. It's never, ever too late. Do I feel old at the age of 40-something? No, I really don't. I got my whole life ahead of me, like however long that is, and so I want to enjoy whatever that is that's left of this life, see, instead of feeling the way that I did, which was that I wanted to kill myself or end this life, and so I'm in such a better place. And I would hope people would hang on long enough to get there too. So back to the article, it says, or people, they may clam up and say nothing at all, right? In these, these poor communicators, right? Hostile and angry people may, clam up and not say anything at all. It says, and does not respond directly to others, even when they really need to do so. Often this results in their carrying around the resentment and frustration that comes from stuffing their anger and the other feelings they may experience. This has the potential to set them up to respond in one of the two ways mentioned above at a later time. So that's the problem with me, I just, for the longest time, clammed up and didn't say anything, stuffed the anger, and then had a lot of rage. So then when I was mad at somebody, it would get out of control, because it would be like all this rage had built up for so long. And then when it finally came out, it would just be this huge issue. And it could have been over something really stupid. And that's what happens between me and my sister, because we both have a lot of problems. And so when we get mad at each other, generally it ends up the fact that we spend hours shouting and screaming at each other, which is just not healthy, and end up saying stuff that we don't mean, and that we don't really mean. We're just hurtful, and just because we're so angry. And I think this happens to a lot of people. And so it's not a good idea, right, to just to keep it all in and stuff the anger. It's really bad. It's hard on the body. It's hard on a person. And then when it does come out, it generally blows everything way out of proportion. So that's not a good, healthy way to deal with it, right? This article discusses the three styles of communication most frequently used by angry people, and it also discusses an alternative way to communicate, which is absolutely necessary to learn if you are going to handle your anger more effectively in your daily living. Dave Decker says here, this style is called being assertive and involves being open and honest with the people around you in a way that is not hurtful to others or you yourself. In order to do this, you first need to identify what you think, feel, and want, and then communicate it directly and respectfully to others. Learning to do this is in your ongoing life is an important part of feeling good about yourself and decreasing the anger that you carry within you. It can also build self-esteem and self-confidence and can increase the potential for you to be truly close to others. It says many angry people think the purpose behind presenting an anger management workshop is to turn them into wimps, so they will keep their mouths shut and never speak up for themselves, even when they need to. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Yeah, that's right. This is not to tell people this, you should just take it and sit down and don't say anything. And, no, that's not what it's about at all. It's about learning how to effectively handle what is bothering us. It's kind of what you might call conflict resolution, right? It's the same type of thing, right? Anger management, conflict resolution. It's like, so we have a problem, let's work it out. Really I should be able to go to my dysfunctional family members and say, look, we really need to sit down and work this out. And I don't want to start screaming and ranting and raving. How about let's be nice to each other? Let's be decent to each other, but yet let's all get to have our say. And allow the topic to come to light of how we're all feeling, and then work around how we're going to make it work, so that we can go forward. And it would bring people a lot closer, right? That's what the whole conflict resolution stuff is all about. It does help people to feel that, hey, I got to voice my concerns and I got to say exactly how I felt. But it didn't turn into a screaming match with everybody throwing things and getting way over the top, abusive, name calling and everything else, and stomping out of the room and then not speaking for 10 years because of something that was said. There has to be better ways to deal with this stuff, and so I know that there is. So that's why these websites are so awesome, and I hope that you will check it out. www.angerresources.com. That's the name of this website. It's just awesome. And it says standing up for yourself effectively and respectfully with partners, friends, coworkers, parents, and others can be very difficult. It says so much of how you connect with and relate to others comes from your early life experiences. The family where you grew up is literally like a laboratory where you are taught how to be a person. Relationships with parents, siblings, and peers are critical in determining what you learn about communicating your thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs. You may have been told or shown that other people are out to get you and that you had to respond in kind, that way. You might have been told that the best defense is a good offense and that you are number one and what you want is all that counts. These are the sorts of attitudes that set the stage for you to lash out or respond in a manipulative way in your relationships with others. And so that's just it. I like what he has to say here, that's how we learn, is within our families when we're very young, right? And so however your family handled things, generally that's how you will handle things unless you get some help or are shown a different way to do it or figure it out, a different way to handle things, right? And so that's why it's so important for people who have grown up around a lot of violence and dysfunction and abuse, domestic violence and child abuse and whatnot, to make sure that they do, get some help with this, because it's just a very unhealthy way to live, and we've been shown exactly how to do it. It says you might have been told or shown that it was selfish to be aware of and think about yourself and your needs. You may have been told not to ask questions because that just showed how dumb you really were. You may have been told that it was important to avoid rocking the boat and creating conflict because disagreement just leads to bad feelings. It says you may have been told that it is important to stay on the good side of others no matter what. Those are the kinds of messages that set the stage for you to shut down and stay quiet in your current life. And then he talks about the best way to begin to become more assertive is to clearly understand the differences between these four styles of communicating. So we'll go through those tomorrow. have about a minute left. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this morning. And to all my shows, I really appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody. If you need some help, let me know. If you need information or resources of what I've been talking about, or if I can help you find any information, let me know. And I'll be on Facebook and whatnot, and you can leave me a message here on Blog Talk Radio. I try to get back to my messages within a few days. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Get help. If you're suffering in silence and you can't cope, you do something. You reach out to someone. You call a crisis line if you have to. That's what those people are there for. And you just make sure that you get some help, because you do deserve to have a good life. We all do. So, you do count. You do matter. And so you matter to me. So get yourself some help and don't suffer in silence, right? It's so sad. So have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.